What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Rex Righteous, and I'm back with another Flashpoint. Alright, so this past weekend we had a huge knockout. Deontay Wilder versus Dominic Breazeale. So I wanted to give you an update. I wanted to talk a little bit about the fight. I've been out of commission for a little bit, but here we are. So as you can see on your screen, if you can't see it, here are some things that occurred after the fight. So since I didn't give a post-fight review on the fight, I'm gonna try to do that and tell you a little bit about the aftermath. So obviously, if you can see on your screen, it says here that Deontay Wilder made about $10 million for the fight, and Dominic Breazeale walked away with around $1 million for the fight. So some of this stuff is interesting. So I have a couple of opinions on the fight, and I think there are some contradicting results for both sides to make arguments. If you're bringing up the fact that Anthony Joshua could fight Deontay Wilder for all the titles to be put on the line besides the Tyson Fury lineal championship title or heavyweight title, or we could just bring up some of the things that happened during the fight. So the way I see it is it does bring Wilder a little bit closer to the fight with Anthony Joshua. I'm not much of a heavyweight boxing fan or anything like that. Not to say that I don't respect their skill level, not to say that I don't like their fights, but lately I haven't been excited about heavyweight fighting, and that's been actually for the past maybe 5 years. I respect their skill set, like I said again, but I'm not always excited to watch heavyweight championship fights. But I do tune in and I do check out what's going on over there, and a lot of times it feels kind of Pacquiao Mayweather-ish. It feels like it's taking forever. So Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder have been going back and forth in negotiations for a long time. There are some videos that have surfaced about Eddie Hearn saying that Wilder isn't known. Then you have Wilder saying that, you know, he can make the fight, but the deal has to be correct. Then you have all these things that happen with Dominic Breazeale in the hotel lobby where they argued and they fight and they yell obscene words to each other, cursing out each other in front of their families and whatnot. So there's been some bad blood on both sides because Anthony Joshua had an upcoming opponent. If you don't know, he popped for steroids 3 different times. Big Baby Miller messed up, and he has been suspended. So ever since then, you have Anthony Joshua with those 3 or 4 titles. I think it's 3. And Wilder has been trying to make the fight himself as well, but it's been both sides just not being able to reconcile or figure out how they're going to make the fight to begin with. So now that I've made that clear, I wanted to let you guys know that I really don't have a horse in the race. The reason why I gave a breakdown like that is because I don't really talk heavyweight championship fights like that. And sometimes I do cover a little bit of the the stuff of what's going on with the heavyweight news and rumors and stuff like that. But for the most part, you know, I don't really talk about the fights and stuff like that because I am going to dig into the details of this fight. So the one thing that has to do with negotiations and whatnot is that here's the contradicting part for Anthony Joshua. Deontay Wilder versus Dominic Breazeale did 9 million views on CBS Sports. That's pretty high. That's pretty up there when the NBA playoffs are going on right now. There's a bunch of other sports going on right now, and normally that doesn't happen. That's not. I mean, it happens, but it doesn't happen as much. It's not an everyday thing. So this fight, from what I understand, was not on pay-per-view, but a lot of people saw the fight. There was a huge knockout. It was in the first round. Blah, blah, blah. Good fight. But there was a knockout. After that, there was a winner. And then it was all about Deontay Wilder. It never stopped after that. So, you know, there are some things that I want to say about Deontay Wilder and why I think some of his fans are not seeing things from both sides. Because, see, I can see a little bit of why people don't like Anthony Joshua and whatnot. But he's done his work. He did what he had to do. He fought the champion that was the veteran in his division. He beat him fair and square. He got all the titles. Obviously, there was some screw ups and some messed up things that happened because Tyson Fury was supposed to be the guy to fight Anthony Joshua down the line, and they've kind of pushed that back because obviously Tyson Fury was retired, and we all know the story. Now Tyson Fury is gonna have a fight coming up. He's hyping himself up. He's saying that Deontay Wilder cannot beat himself, which is Tyson Fury, and he says that Deontay Wilder is number 2. So, to me, if you ask me, I think for both sides there's something to argue about. There are some specific things that look very questionable when it came to the Deontay Wilder versus Breazeale fight. Some of it looked kind of, I don't know, kind of quick, kind of just like he didn't belong in the ring with him. Some Wilder fans might say, well, Wilder's just better, or he's got a stronger hand, you know, when it comes to right hands or whatever, than Joshua. Because some people say that Joshua is not as heavy-handed or is not a knockout artist like Deontay Wilder. Very interesting stuff. I think that's a good way to break things down. But at the same time, you know, there's stuff to be said about what happened. There's always history, right? Before a fight, somebody feels like they might be sick or they're traveling or whatever. Yeah, some people might not want to hear that, but those are the things that happen with Anthony Joshua versus Breazeale. Now, when Breazeale fought Anthony Joshua, it took him 7 rounds. From what I understand, Anthony Joshua was sick. He wasn't feeling well, and also Dominic Breazeale wasn't. He didn't have a loss at the time. He was undefeated. The Breazeale that you see here with Deontay Wilder, had already had a loss, and it was from Anthony Joshua. So it was an impressive knockout. By no means I will take anything away from what Wilder did on Saturday night. It was an incredible showing. He looks like he's getting better. He looks more agile, and he looks like he has more lift. I really find it hard to break down that fight. Now, I'm not saying I won't make a prediction, on the fight if Joshua was to ever sign a contract with Deontay Wilder and they decide to make it wherever. I don't know how my prediction is going to go because at the moment I still don't see who's going to win that fight. I would love to hear predictions, but I don't know if you're going to sway me on my ultimate outcome for this fight. Okay? I really see that this is a 50-50 fight. Now, the negotiation part is different. I don't know about negotiation. I can't tell you who should get 50, who should get 50, who should get 40, who should get 60, any of that stuff. I don't know. I find it interesting that Wilder already has 3 opponents already lined up with names attached to those opponents. So basically, he knows exactly who he's fighting. That is usually not the case with other fighters. They sometimes don't even hint to the next fighter that they're going to fight. Deontay Wilder's already said that he's going to fight Luis Ortiz, then Kanwaki, which I'm not too savvy about. I don't know who he is, so like that. I know that he's based out of New York and he's a good fighter. They say that he's a top 10 fighter in the heavyweight division. Okay, cool. And then a potential fight between him and Anthony Joshua. So to me, I find it super interesting that there's 3 opponents already lined up with their names attached to it. That is very strange. I've never even seen Floyd Mayweather say who he was fighting back to back with names on it and everything. They would usually hint at the next fighter that they're fighting, and there would be kind of like a wild card of names, and you can't tell from the spectrum of who they're choosing, because usually the one fighter could be number 5 and the other one could be number 2, so you don't know where their mind is at. But if they have a title, usually the process should be a little bit more speedy in making the next fight with other champions. Now, Wilder's been the WBC champion for a while now. From what I understand, that is his 9th defense that happened on Saturday. That's a pretty long time, since there's 2 fights a year. You know, that you cut that in half, that's maybe around 5 or 6 years of fighting with that championship belt. I think it's time that they make something of this fight that could go down between him and Joshua. They need to bring it together somehow, some way. This is like neutral right now, especially for me, because like I said, I don't know who's gonna win that fight. I saw that Breazeale was an interesting fighter. He's from California, if I'm not mistaken. He looked like he was kind of a bit promising, but when he got into the ring, he looked like he was hit by a tornado. To be honest with you, I didn't like the choosing of Virgil Hunter. I thought it was not a very smart idea to go in with someone like that. I'm not a huge fan of Virgil Hunter, but at the same time, he does have his achievements. The only thing is, when I saw the clip of him warming up with his trainer, it just looked kind of off to me. So we're gonna just look past this now, because we already spoke about this. But I'm gonna pull up my profile, okay? I want you guys to see a video that I put up online, because I saw this on the Showtime. I saw this on the Showtime Instagram. So here they are, just, you know, hitting the pads and whatnot. Obviously you can see that they're in a room, and there's some like maybe testing going on over there, just some like checking out. Oh wow, zoomed in a lot. So it'll probably replay again. But yeah, They're probably like checking out stuff, looking at whatever they have for the corner, just thinking, getting ready or prepared. Here we go. So here is Virgil Hunter. Now he looks scared out of his mind, man. And every time it's always to that right over there is when they throw the punch. He never throws it on this side, on the opposite side of where they're throwing now. He always turns around and makes it sure it's on this side going this way. And it's kind of like a ring around the rosy type of thing where he's like kind of scared and spooked, and he's like all meek, and he looks kind of just like he doesn't know if he believes in this fighter. Wilder spoke so badly about Breazeale. He sounded like he wanted to like really embarrass him, and he did. I really feel like if there was anything that Virgil Hunter could have done differently, it was to show some type of care or passion towards the fight, because he looked more spooked out of his mind. Especially right here. Look, and he turns the corner, he looks right into the camera. Boom. And he looks really, 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 really scared here. I don't understand. Why not take what you heard from Wilder and harness that energy and use your motivation, your anger, your passion, your focus to put it into your fighter. Make sure that he's prepared and really like knowing what he wants to do. I think it's a mindset before something like that. Any kind of sports event. I mean, obviously boxing will never be like too many other sports aside from contact sports, which I love. But in my opinion, see, when I used to play sports, when I was playing baseball or basketball or anything like that, there was always the veterans that were on the team or the coaches. My coaches were always trying to push us. And we could be doing really well and they'll yell at us, And it wasn't because it's a different time or anything like that. It's just that that's what a real coach is supposed to be like, in my opinion. He's supposed to push you. He or she's supposed to push you. They are supposed to push you in a way where you're a little uncomfortable. And there's nothing wrong with being uncomfortable in a fight. You're not supposed to be comfortable. So to me, I felt like this whole we're just gonna throw punches just to get the nervousness out is a good idea, but at least can you talk to him and tell him, pump him up. So that was disturbing to me. And when I saw that after the fight, I said, no wonder this guy hypnotized him. He just like moved him around a little bit just to get his sweat going a little bit, but he didn't push him. And this is terrible. All right, I must just say a few things about Virgil Hunter and then I'm over with, because I don't like talking bad about people, but this guy almost got, like, he could have been like terribly hospitalized. I don't know if he was, but obviously it didn't turn out anything too bad because there was no news on it and I haven't heard anything. But he was dropped. He was hurt. He was put out on the canvas. So look, this is how the fight turned out. I'm not cool with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, go out swinging, go out with something, like with some kind of landing. I mean, look at how he hit him. This is not good. So Virgil Hunter was is the coach for Amir Khan. Amir Khan's last time he was knocked out like that, it looked really bad, and all Virgil Hunter can do is basically say, you did well and blah blah blah. You can be there for him and all that, but before the fight is the key part, you know. Amir Khan's been dropped terribly, and his last fight versus Terrence Crawford didn't look that great either. I mean, he won a couple rounds, but still, you know, there was no ending like we thought it would be. It was more like, oh, here goes Amir Khan again, and they ended the fight off of like some kind of throwing of the towel or whatever. And maybe he has like some something, maybe he's scared of something. I don't know. Maybe he's not ready. Another thing is Virgil Hunter's never fought in his life. He's never had a pro fight once. I just see that as a huge issue for me. And obviously, you guys know I don't like to do conspiracies. I don't like crazy gossip, but that spooked me in a way where it's like, how do people with all this money allow for this to happen? You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's kind of like, was Breazeale a placeholder for just this moment? Was he just someone there because Deontay Wilder didn't want to fight Anthony Joshua? I don't know. I don't like to speculate. I like I like Deontay Wilder's story. I think he's incredible, just like Luis Ortiz with his story. Obviously there's problems that Luis Ortiz has had in the past, but regardless, they all have a story. And if you're not doing something horribly wrong in boxing, which some boxers do. I mean, this is one of the most dirtiest sports in the world when it comes to backdoor negotiations and things that are going on that all have to do with greed and money and power. And a lot of times it causes for boxers to change their personality or their way of conveying how they feel about the fans or about the titles. Sometimes it's not all the same. They don't always behave the same. After years, of course, they start to become a little bit more arrogant or start to say more wild stuff. And Wilder has said some things about Breazeale. Those things were terrible. He shouldn't have said those things, but he said it, and he was trying to sell a fight. Now, for me, if you ask me, I don't think you should have to sell a fight in that fashion. Mike Tyson has done it. There's been many instances where boxers are trying to sell a fight. You have Bernard Hopkins saying that he will never lose to a white boy, or you have Muhammad Ali saying what round he's gonna knock the guy out in, and or you have the classified Sugar Ray Leonard that never really engaged into too much arguing unless the other fighter showed that he wanted his spot and they spoke, and things were said, shots were fired, as they say. But look, in my opinion, did Dominic Breazeale take a dive? If that's what it comes down to, is that what we're talking about here? I don't know if he took a dive. I don't think he did. I don't think one prepares to do that. I think that it could be like the old school way where it's like you're asked right before the fight or whatever. But I've seen Dominic Breazeale fight. He wasn't that impressive. I think he deserves to be in the top 10, or he should be in the
climate of heavyweight fighters and whatnot. But I don't see him as a true champion. I don't see him having many defenses, kind of like Deontay Wilder has. So, um, when it comes to the dive, I don't think so. But it's just strange sometimes how people can pull some strings, or there could be some puppeteering, especially for moments like this where things are sensitive. Like I said, they had arguments in the lobby of a hotel because there was a fight before and Deontay Wilder showed up and whatever. They have history, okay, but this choosing of Virgil Hunter was not a great idea in my opinion. Obviously, I'm not on Dominic Breazeale's team, but that was an awful showing in my opinion. They didn't do a good job there. But other than that, if we're gonna continue when it comes to Anthony Joshua and Wilder, there's always more to come. These guys are gonna continue fighting. They're healthy. They're young. They're all, from what I understand, I think Anthony Joshua's under 30 years old, so he's always gonna be around. What more is there to say besides the fact that Deontay Wilder has the WBC? He's willing to fight, but I just find it fishy that he already has named opponents already. Not too many people are clamoring to see Kanwaki. You know what I'm saying? I don't think a lot of people are trying to see that fight, man. Like, come on. So I'm gonna see where this guy's at, but from what I understand, he's not really up there like that, and I don't hear people wanting to talk about it. It's always about Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. So here we go. He's number 5 on the WBC ranking system. He's number 4 on the IBF. He's nowhere near the WBO ranking system. And I don't see him in the WBA ranking system at all. So he's number 4 and 5 when it comes to these two titles. And we all know what's going on with Pulev. If you don't know, Google it. But he, I think, is going through a suspension right now. So he would have been number 1 to fight Anthony Joshua. But we can't keep going through this. You know what I'm saying? Those are big fights. Obviously, I feel like whenever a fighter is going to fight 2 big fights back to back, that could take a lot out of you. Like, I think right now, like, for example, with Manny Pacquiao, he's 40 years old. He's going to fight Keith Thurman. If he fights Errol Spence next, I think there's going to be a big issue with that. I don't think he can do back-to-back athletic fighters like that, or champions, I should say. Keith Thurman's a champion, but I don't think he hits as hard as Errol Spence. So he possibly could do it, but I don't see him doing something like that, making a decision like that. If I was his advisor, I would advise him not to do something like that. But if he did it, he's incredible. He's Manny Pacquiao. He's definitely the man. But while they're fighting Tyson Fury, down the line, it looks like they don't want to do it. There's talk about Tyson Fury, saying that he would beat Wilder or whatever. The rematch isn't talked about much. Wilder says that he hasn't heard anything from Fury. He says that he thinks that Fury doesn't want it again. It's just more playing around. Obviously, we know the stuff that happened with Bob Arum and Al Heyman. They don't get along, so that there's a constant beef there. It's the Cold War. So that makes it even more difficult since Tyson Fury signed to Top Rank. It makes it even more difficult. So what is likely? Anthony Joshua, but still 3 fights from now. So this is why I don't like talking about heavyweight championship rumors and whatnot. There are a lot of good fighters here. There's not always about these two guys. There's Alexander Usyk that is coming up from the cruiserweight division, and he has all the titles down there, literally all of them. So that would be interesting to see him fight up here, but it's all down the road. Anthony Joshua's going to be fighting Andy Ruiz pretty soon. I don't have a breakdown much for that right now. I'm going to be focusing on watching that fight on the zone. Should be interesting. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to this weekend that's coming up with Devin Haney and the rest of those guys that are fighting that Saturday that is about to pull up in a couple days, maybe 4 or 5 days from now. But guys, this is all I have for you at the moment when it comes to the heavyweight division. Everything that happened between Wilder and Breazeale, I enjoyed kicking my knowledge and what I thought on the fights. Let me know what you guys think of the next upcoming fight. Do you think Adam Kanaki is worth the mention? He's from New York, I know that. He's 19-0, but I've seen him fight once or twice, but like I said, I don't see it as like a thing where it's a must, where Anthony Joshua has, most of the titles. He has WBO, IBF, again, WBA. That's it. Let's just unify these titles. Let's make it happen already. But that's all I have for you guys. I'm sorry if this video was long, and if you want more like this, we can always do it again. This was a little bit like a rap rant, but I had some stuff to show you, so that's how I categorize things. If anything, feel free to hit me up, r.calvo29, Facebook, RafLegend193, Twitter. You know what to do. Like, comment, share. I'm out, and let's try to keep boxing alive, yo. Peace.
So it's burning me lips, a shepherd to the sheep, a paternity test. We show that I'm your father, boy, learn some respect. You feel that? That's my foot on your motherfucking chest. I swear I wrote the book on how to come for your neck. Pull your card, your numbers up, crumble your deck. What's a lion to a dinosaur? Call me Righteous Rex.